那如果我们不去的话，谁去呢？
只要希望在，那么之前的所有这些都不会是。
January 31st, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern. The fight to cage the viper is no longer just about Wuhan. Cities across China started to put medical supply factories back to work. Back in Wuhan, general hospitals started to modify their regular wards into quarantine rooms for treating severely ill coronavirus patients. We entered one of the wards, but we were told that nothing could be taken into the quarantine areas, including cameras. Spread home for 2 weeks. Tang says severely ill patients need special care.
氧气不足，那么他们意识就像刚开始那个他们会有一些谵妄或者是做一些无意识的活动。这时候你在上呼吸机或者做一些治疗的时候，你就会有很多。
All the time.
我们好多护士上了6个小时班出去之后自己吸氧，自己拉吸氧。
吸氧？6到8个小时吧。
To keep up with the workload, medical workers need to eat more. They also have fear.
说不害怕是假的，说不害怕是假的，就是当时就想到自己的孩子啊，然后想到自己的爸爸妈妈，然后就觉得万一自己有什么事，我爸妈只有一个孩子，他们怎么办？然后我的孩子还那么小，他该怎么办？想我啦？你站远一点，我看一下你好不好？啊，是你。你看你的牙还没有长起来，只能说跟他说，这次爸爸妈妈回来以后，等这场疫情就是结束以后的话，就是想带他出去玩，都可以跟你。
好，行。
对不起。
不辞艰辛。
By early February, over 10,000 medical workers from the rest of China had gone to help. And that number tripled in the following weeks. Doctors and nurses from 16 provinces were also drafted to help cities surrounding Wuhan, one province taking care of one city. Good news came out on February 2nd. The first emergency hospital, Huashanshan, started to take in severely ill coronavirus patients, less than 2 weeks after construction work began. But a shortage of test kits was slowing the process of confirming cases, and there still weren't enough hospital beds. The city said it would send all confirmed patients to hospitals so that the majority of the 9 million people in lockdown could be safe. Dozens of quarantine centers were now opened across the city. Those in quarantine included people who had close contact with confirmed patients, fever patients, and people with clinical symptoms that had not yet been confirmed. The fatality rate of the virus is now under 3%, less than half that for SARS, but it's more contagious. On February 3rd, the nationwide death toll reached 361, overtaking SARS. But the next day, newly confirmed patients started to slow down outside Hubei province, where Wuhan is the provincial capital, a sign that the lockdown on Wuhan might have started to work. By the third week of the lockdown, over 10,000 cases were confirmed. and tens of thousands more were suspected in Wuhan. But fewer than 200 hospital beds were available. The government decided to convert public buildings, such as stadiums and convention centers, into temporary hospitals. The first 3 offered more than 4,000 beds.
这个国家也是费了很大的力气在拯救，但是还是武汉市地方对这个事情还是整治晚。
今年很多人都在缅怀一位医生李文亮。
A local doctor, Li Wenliang, tried to alert people about the virus a month before the lockdown, but he was reprimanded by the local authorities. Then he too became sick. CGTN reached out to him, but he was already severely ill with the coronavirus. But that day never came. On February 7th, Li passed away. Amid a public uproar, the central government sent a special team to investigate the circumstances leading to Dr. Li's death. In this battle against the virus, over 3,000 medical workers were infected in China. Many are in Wuhan. A dozen died. As doctors and nurses risk their lives in the wards, residents in Wuhan are doing their part to pull the city together. Gloves and protective suits have been donated from across China and even from overseas. Distributing them is a challenge.
就是武汉市和周边市区各个医院送物资，然后这边顺丰的站点就给予了很多帮助。包括有给荆州市中心医院送的物资，他们站点的费用都是他们员工自己出的。自己出的。对。
Only 3 express companies insisted on providing service in town, but only for sending and receiving medical goods.
有没有跟其他的公司的快递小哥交流过？羡不羡慕他们现在？
也不是羡慕，我觉得他们应该羡慕我们，因为我们在疫情最严重的时候还在挺身而出，还在为大家服务，我们觉得还是蛮自豪的。每次我小孩都说这么一声“爸爸真棒”，这是我儿子每次说的，觉得蛮欣慰，知道吧？
On February 12th, more than 10,000 new cases were announced in the city. The surge came when health authorities started to use clinical symptoms to determine a coronavirus patient rather than relying on slow tests. More help arrived. Another 1,400 military medics were sent to Wuhan on February 13th. 11 military aircraft brought medical teams and supplies. It's the first time that China's Y-20 transport plane is taking part in an operation outside of military drills.
这次我们医疗队抽的是精力强将，重症、呼吸、传染、防疫。
By now, more than 30,000 medical workers had been sent to Wuhan from 29 provinces and regions. Production of protective gear was also picking up. Hubei province can now get over 300,000 N95 medical masks per day, up from 35,000 per day in late January. On February 17th, Wuhan said the city was finally able to quarantine all people who might spread the virus. Staying at home might avoid unnecessary contact, but there's a price to pay.
我就说到了及时上，我们都是有工作的，要上班。
我们也蛮着急啊。
我跟你讲，单位都要垮了。
哎，是的。
搞了你妈这个警告模式的，30天6天10天20几天。
Nevertheless, demobilizing people in Wuhan is key to cutting off paths for the virus to spread. 1 month after the lockdown, it seems like an end is approaching. More and more provinces start to see no increase in confirmed cases. And in Wuhan, patients with coronavirus symptoms no longer need to wait for days for the nucleic acid test. The number of daily new cases is on the verge of dropping into double digits. Doctors and nurses can't relax, but the country is behind them.
各地对我们的这种资助，我们就是生活上的改善，人员上的改善，特别感激，是真心的感激。就是之前就以为就是我们自己，对武汉的这种这样的，然后其实就知道其实不是一个人在战斗，全国人民都在支持我们。
我相信这次疫情给每一个人都会留下一个深刻的记忆。
The battle isn't over, but people are now looking ahead to the day when love and life can resume.
我说潘多拉的盒子已经打开了，然后灾难、恐惧、疾病这些都跳出来了，然后但是这个盒子里面最后的一样东西，就是我们看这个希腊神话里面他说的，就是希望。只要希望还在，那么之前的所有这些都不会死。